Hello there.
Welcome back to Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. This is episode number 44 of the regular show. Today we are watching the final episodes chronologically, that is, of season 2 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Death Trap, R2 Come Home, and Lethal Trackdown. As always, I'm Jacob.
I'm Castus. I'm Eli. Yeah, I have to plug in the name of somebody we're talking about. And yeah, welcome back to Star Wars in the Galaxy. We hope you enjoyed the collaboration with Maggie Lovett last week. We hope you're going to enjoy this closing of season 5 of Star Wars in the Galaxy. We got some great stuff planned for season 6. I'm very excited. I think Jacob, you are too. And
Sure am.
yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So
Death Trap. In this episode, we open with a young boy Boba Fett has finagled his way into a group of clone cadets who are taking a tour of the cruiser or the flagship actually of Mace Windu's fleet, the Endurance, and then they're going around, they're doing their thing, and Boba Fett peels off to try and assassinate Mace Windu with a bomb. It fails. The ship goes into lockdown. Boba Fett's running around. He's trying to go back to his group. He pretty much brings down the entire ship. Actually, he blows up the main reactor, but he doesn't manage to he does not manage to kill Mace Windu. So eventually, his escape pod is picked up by Aura Singh and Bosk with the Slave One, and they make their escape.
absolutely.
And the ship crashes also.
As always, we're starting with the fortune cookie. Who my father was matters less than my memory of him.
This is a pretty cool fortune cookie, in my opinion. I think it
I quite
is.
like it.
It could be seen as kind of a stretch, but I mean, from Boba's perspective, I think it's interesting that now that he's forced to make his way in the universe without like his parent,
I see what you did there.
he wait. I know that wasn't even intentional. Oh my gosh.
That
Oh
was
my
good
gosh.
though.
No, keep this in. Yeah, it's a reference to for
Just
anyone.
a simple man trying to make my way in the universe. That was
For
very
anyone.
good.
Yeah.
Very nice job.
I didn't even. That's the best thing when you accidentally make an
You
amazing
accidentally reference
reference.
yourself.
I know, deep reference. But he's forced to make his way in the universe as a simple man without his parent, and he seems to be guided in this episode less by the teachings his dad gave him, and more on the idea of he has to avenge his dad.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because, at the very end of this arc, we see Hondo say, don't kill them, like this is what your dad would want to do. So it's interesting to see how that idea kind of evolves and pops up again. So I guess we can get more into that later on.
Yeah.
What was your take on this?
So, one of the things I agree with you. I think this is about Boba Fett. One of the things is that I wrote down, which I think is pretty true. It's not about who Jango was; it's how Boba saw him. It's who Boba thought he was, and that's really all that matters in the end. We can always also. I was thinking just in generally, we can apply this outside of this episode. We see a lot of characters with troubled father figures. Luke comes to mind, Rey comes to mind, and Cal Kestis from Fallen Order comes to mind. Luke's father is literally Darth Vader. Rey's father sold her to protect her from her grandfather, who is Palpatine. And Cal's father figure died while trying to save him, and Cal blames himself for Master T'Pol's death. What we see in all those three cases is that all three of them are able to convince themselves that some part of their father, in this case, was a good person. Darth Vader was Anakin Skywalker. Rey's father made the choice to run away from Palpatine. And Jaro T'Pol was a valiant Jedi Knight and, warrior who died fighting Cal, died saving Cal, who he respected and admired and loved. So, there's that sort of idea of, who my father... They have to battling with the memory of your father is an intrinsically Star Wars thing to do. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
it's why they kill them off, because they're not allowed to remind them about who they actually are. They get deified in this way, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
Um,
they really do. Yeah, that's a very good observation. I totally agree.
yeah,
Like we see in this episode, Boba, it doesn't even. It's interesting though that how we see the different characters have different reactions to their
yeah,
parent being taken from them. Like Boba, instead of like trying to redeem, I guess he can't redeem his father, but instead of trying to honor his father's memory or kind of live virtuously and be nicer as a result, it seems almost like he commits then to being more brutal,
yeah,
being more ruthless, and ultimately seeking vengeance rather. So, and I mean, I think it's a very Mandalorian thing to do, regardless
absolutely it
of
is.
whether or
Yeah,
not, regardless of like how Mandalorian they technically are. I think there's
yeah.
definitely something to be said
Um,
for how that affects them. It's
there's
definitely a
an
very
interesting
Mandalorian thing to do.
contrast. Last week we were talking about people who definitely want to be seen as Mandalorians, and now we are talking about somebody who definitely does not want to be seen as a Mandalorian,
Yeah,
despite them both being, now we know, Mandalorians. Um,
yeah,
which is
but yeah,
a
very
fun
true.
comparison.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So one of the first things I noticed about this episode, what Republic cruiser does this episode take place on?
Is it the Resolute? I can't remember the
It's
name.
the Endurance, which,
Mm.
for all you Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes fans out there,
Mace
is Mace
Windu's.
Windu's capital ship in that game. I was having a very fun discussion on Twitter with Meg Dowell, who we've had on the show a couple times, and Andrew from Outer Rim Reads, who we've just had on our stream a bunch of times. They both play Galaxy of Heroes. I was talking to them about, because Bo-Katan just released into Galaxy of Heroes.
Ooh,
Um, and I was talking about them because Meg was really excited. Um, about Bo-Katan coming into Galaxy of Heroes.
I bet.
Um, so yeah, it's fun seeing stuff that directly goes into Galaxy of Heroes like this. There are certain episodes that are just Galaxy of Heroes fodder, where they just take the entire episode and put into Galaxy of Heroes, like Massacre. They take half that
Yeah,
episode and put it into Galaxy of Heroes.
I know.
um, yeah. So we get to see. Here's an interesting concept that I'd love to explore: the young clones. This is an interesting, like, we saw the clone cadets in that episode named clone cadets, but it's interesting to literally see these, like, basically they're younglings. They're
Yeah,
the equivalent of younglings. I mean, technically they're like 5 years old, considering what we're thinking about.
yeah. The
Absolutely.
capital ship.
Let's get back to it. I'll cut this back.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um this is the interesting thing. Jax. I want to talk about Jax a little bit. Jax is the one clone who pretty much through the entire episode sticks his neck out for Boba,
Yeah.
which you'd think, because I understand what they're trying to set up in terms of story level, that Boba is an outsider and Boba doesn't fit in. But imagine for like a second, just imagine this scenario. Imagine Boba was a clone. Imagine everything he told those other troopers was true. I mean, looking at it that way, those two guys who were like, "What are you, soft?" They're assholes.
Yeah,
They're legit,
absolutely.
and
Like,
judging on clone cadets in subsequent episodes, that they would be trained otherwise. A trooper's only as good as the trooper beside him, Jax says to Boba in this episode. That entire episode of clone cadets is teamwork makes the dream work. Work together with your fellow soldiers. You wouldn't think they would be so, because nobody does anything about that. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I think it just shows kind of the way, despite like how they clearly believe it, there's still some cognitive dissonance within how they treat each other, and maybe that kind of goes to show the power of this kind of group mentality and group thinking and very collectivist spirit that the clones are brought up in, that they immediately kind of seize on the outsider and
Yeah,
choose to try and bully Boba as the outsider. But I think there's so much irony in these first couple of scenes. It's really amazing. The trainer clone, the director, looking turning to Boba, looking him right in the face as he says, "What will you do when you look death in the eyes?" And then later he may die because of Boba, or his life is in danger because of Boba. Furthermore, the fact that Boba has probably seen more death than everyone else in that room combined, if we're being honest, especially
Yeah, I don't
especially
remember
him
that line
witnessing
for some reason.
Django. Oh, it's definitely there. And I
Okay,
think it's interesting
must
just
have missed it.
juxtaposing Boba trying to fit in with the optimistic collectivism of these clone cadets, which is kind of the polar opposite of his experience and his very jaded, very pessimist, very look out for number one type of extreme individualism that we see him use a lot.
I definitely agree. I also love as the clones are walking aboard the ship and they see all the actual clones, the grown up clones. Was that like was that as impactful to you as it? Because here's the thing, I forgot to tell you about these 3 episodes. Remember how I told you I've watched Bounty Hunters in the Zillow Beast arc like 60,000 times.
Yes.
I've also watched these 3 like quite a few times.
Yeah, they're good ones for sure.
So, because I have a DVD of the last quarter of season 2, which is why I've watched these so much. But anyway,
Yeah.
When they enter the ship and they're all wowing over these grown-up clones serving them in armor, right? I immediately, because you know me, you know how I think, I could go back to the deserter. Yeah, they're wowing at these clones. Yeah, this is the life they want to grow up doing. Why would they think anything else? It's this. These clones are automatically their heroes because they cannot see their life going in any other direction, which again connects back to why the Deserter is one of the best episodes of Clone Wars. But anyway, what I merely mean is why Cut was so radical is because we see from birth they're conditioned to be these warriors. There's no other path for them. It's like, you are engineered to be aggressive and warlike. They talked about all those modifications they made in Attack of the Clones. They
It's literally in their blood.
It's
not
in their
just
DNA.
nurture.
It's in their DNA. It was literally manufactured in them.
Yeah, absolutely. If we can go on then to the first moment when Boba Fett comes face to face with Mace Windu, is when Anakin actually says to the clones, "You're gonna serve along 2 Jedi
Knights."
Man, you hear that scene, and then immediately after that, a clone comes in and says, "General Windu, General Skywalker, you have orders from Kenobi." And you see Mace Windu's face. He's just like, "But Kenobi reports to me. Like, I'm on the council. Like, come on. Like, can you really blame him for being crabby all the time when this is the thing
Anakin
he gets?"
was more cranky than Mace Windu, but I understand your point.
Anakin was more cranky than Mace Windu in this episode for sure. Mace Windu gets like low key disrespected here. I don't know, man.
When I show off, it is informative and inspiring for you, maybe.
No, he does have some pretty good. He's no Kenobi, but he can hold his own on the verbal battlegrounds.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so much I honestly think to love about these 3 episodes. One of the things is Boba gets a strange form of tunnel vision.
How so?
Boba is still a 10-year-old boy. Inside of him, he still has that innocence in him. But on everything but one thing, of course, which is killing Mace Windu. We see repeatedly, I want Windu dead. Windu needs to die. I want Windu, constantly, over and over and over again. But you see him hesitate against the clones. You see him, Boba Fett never kills a single person in this arc.
Yeah.
Notice,
that's a really
very
good point.
intentionally, Boba never kills a single person in this arc. He always stuns or relies on Aurra Sing to do it. That speaks volumes.
I wouldn't even say he relies on Aurra Sing to do it, because when Aurra Sing kills people, it's when he's saying, "No, we don't have to do it. Like, why are you doing this?" So
honestly, actually, I'm pretty sure because Boba Fett appears very limited in elsewhere in the Clone Wars. I know he does appear. I think there is a chance that Boba Fett does not kill anyone in the entire series.
Wow. I
Which
it's a possibility, yeah.
which if you really think about the thematic ideas of why that is, it's an interesting. This is one of the key points I want to bring up in this arc specifically. They tried to give Boba Fett an arc. They tried to give Boba Fett a character arc, but they knew they couldn't because, of course, if they give Boba too much of an arc, Boba's transformation into the cruel, unfeeling bounty hunter we see in The Empire Strikes Back doesn't work.
Yeah.
And even now, it doesn't work. Honestly, that's my biggest question with this arc, and why this arc, the biggest way this arc falls flat for me, is we have not gotten any explanation as to why, as to how Boba Fett goes from innocent young boy just trying to get revenge for his father's death to cold, unfeeling hunter who will do anything if the pay is good enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you may honestly, in my opinion, be mischaracterizing Boba Fett a tad. They in various sources is kind of alluded to and shown how he does have, I mean, although he is pretty brutal at times in his own way, kind of a weird code of justice that he follows in his bounties. But I definitely see what you mean, and I think it shows just how far you really have to fall to get to the level of someone like that. And I think it's interesting that I like how they don't go all the way. They don't need to go all the way, He's trying to get revenge on Mace Windu. But I think that's what's so interesting to me, and that's what makes it about the memory of his father to me, is the fact that Boba Fett is so fixated on killing Mace Windu and murdering a man. He really wants to murder another human being, like really, really deeply. And yet he doesn't apply that to anyone else, and he doesn't even like the ends don't even justify the means to him. Barely. He only does it when Aura coerces him in terms of blowing up the ship. So I really think that goes to show how it's because he kind of thinks that it's what his father would have done, and that's how the memory of his father is driving him.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'm very interested. Like, for example, I mentioned this in my notes. A couple of things. First of all, in some of the comics, Boba Fett is just completely ruthless. He has no morality code at all. He's just completely ruthless. It's a strange contrast. And also, you know where the perfect place to explain Boba's like morality change, I guess you could say? You know what's the perfect place? The Bad Batch. I want to see it. It's the perfect time period to explore it. Let's see it. Let's see how Boba Fett becomes the ruthless killer we see in Empire.
That would be nice. I also think that they would do well to give that show a little room to breathe without bringing in too many known characters. But if it's gonna happen, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Obviously,
I want to see that story. I don't. You don't have to do like the entire like. Boba doesn't have to go through an entire Anakin-esque like fall, but like I just want to see. I just want to see some of his change.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it would be great.
It's a little bit disconcerting to see. What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me. From I don't want all of this. I want to kill Windu. You know what I mean? It's very
absolutely.
It's very jarring to see that.
Yeah, it is definitely quite a change. You're absolutely right. I think it would be interesting to see kind of a little more, as you say, of that. Also, I think though, I talk a lot about the power of the unknown, and that's something that I like about Star Wars is some of the mysterious aspects.
Yeah,
I just said aspects. Oh my gosh. So I don't think it would be the greatest thing, but I guess I wouldn't be totally opposed to it.
Yeah.
So moving on then.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So moving on, we get the part where Boba Fett is planting the bomb. A bomb has been planted in Mace Windu's quarters, in his bedroom, even.
Yeah.
and he comes face to face with Mace Windu
Yeah.
right after he plants the bomb, which
Notice
that is
how
incredible.
hard he's trying not to look at him.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's shocking. I also want to point out that Boba Fett's official code name is CT. Sorry, is to Cadet 327.
I thought it
You're
was
welcome.
322.
It's 327.
327. Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
Wow.
This is recorded
dog.
the day after the Stamen versus Andrew DiMolanta Schmodown match, when a trivia question with the answer 327 was happened in that match. I immediately lit up. Also, that match was glorious, but I'm not going to get too much into it. Anyway, I also, here's another, I love my parallels, right?
Oh yes.
When Mace Windu is setting up the search for the intruder who he doesn't know is Boba Fett, he says, he ends it by saying, "I want them alive," which is a line frequently said by Darth Vader.
I know there were so many Darth Vader parallels in this. I really was a big fan of that. The music in these scenes though was just so chilling. They gave Boba Fett and this kind of deadly vendetta its own piece in the score, which I thought was absolutely fantastic, and it was just so perfect and so haunting, and it reminded me a lot of the music in Shattered.
Oh yeah, that
like right before Order
that like
66
high
happens.
pitched voice, right thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the high pitched voiced, and then that kind of the mid tone, unidentifiable kind of wind instrument.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Kevin
the
Kiner's
two
a
tone thing.
genius. There's one thing that Star
Kevin Kiner is
Wars
so underrated.
has not failed on yet. I don't care what you're looking at. I don't care where you're looking at. The one thing Star Wars has not failed on yet is the music. No matter where you look, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah. So, a couple of other things. I don't have too many crazy notes on this episode. What I do have, let's talk, because I want to talk about this, about the training scene.
Yeah, this scene was, I thought it was absolutely laden with symbolism.
Yeah, I love this scene because, we see that Boba Fett is no ordinary, like, he's not at the cadet skill level. He's already growing into the Boba Fett we're going to know him to be. He gets the separatists in tri-attack formation. He gets them. He gets his shots every single time. Just does it. Boom, boom, boom. Couple this with an R2 come home. He misses one of the hyperspace rings.
Yeah, he misses every single shot in that episode. Also, I think he
blows
only,
up one. He blows up a hyperspace. He blows up one of them.
Yeah, I know, but like he blows up the wrong hyperspace ring, which I think in a way that is also
not necessarily. I think they could
an interesting moment that he blows up the wrong one.
I think R2 could have locked in either one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that is the case.
Yeah, but I think what he was aiming for was to destroy them both. But
I mean, they said in the episode. I remember they said, they said, I can't remember who it was. Yeah, it was must have been either Aura or Bosk said, "We're coming in too fast. You only get one shot.
Yeah,
you can only destroy one of them."
Oh, I thought that meant you only get one shot at destroying both of them.
Oh, that's a possibility. I don't know. I'd have to go rewatch that to really know, but I don't know. I took it as I took it as symbolism.
Either way, either way, it doesn't matter because the message is the same. Boba is skillful, but he still has much to learn.
Yeah, and I think also it shows how much, even though the clones are this elite, insane fighting force, they still have so much work to do. I think just looking at especially how man, is it Admiral Kilian? Who's the Admiral in this?
Kilian.
Yeah, Admiral Kilian even says, like, or maybe it's the gunnery sergeant. I can't remember, but one of the two says, experience or training is no match for experience.
This is one of it's.
Look at Boba Fett,
and it's something none of you have, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's something
and
all
you
of you
can just
lack or something like
tell.
that. I don't
Yeah,
know. I can look at my
you
notes.
can just
I
you can just tell that Boba Fett is fuming this whole
yeah.
time. He's like, I'm not one of these people.
Yeah.
I'm not the same as them.
I know
I'm
that
not their
look.
brother.
I know that
I'm their
look.
older brother. Yeah.
Admiral Kilian says,
Yeah.
which
And
is
he's literally an unaltered clone, so he is not the same as them
yeah.
actually. But I think it's just yeah.
such a chilling line. There are a couple of lines in this episode that are so chilling. I know that look is one of them. That is an incredible line right there. Yeah.
100%.
So I don't
And
have
then Kilian is kidnapped and executed by Aura Singh later on. Oh my gosh, there's so much there.
yeah. I I don't have much about the sneaking around parts. I'd love to move to the to like post explosion.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Absolutely.
If you don't have any more notes for that part,
let me see here.
I
think I'm good.
I'll just throw this out. As
good.
a clone is sucked into space, he yells out the Wilhelm scream.
That is true. Yes,
so
I noticed.
Low hanging fruit. We got to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
They love the Wilhelm scream.
Here's an interesting one. Why does I've watched this episode so many times. Why does Admiral Kilian go down with this ship? I don't
know because there's so many. Maybe not so many, but there are certainly plenty of examples of admirals not going down with their ship.
It's not that I mind him doing it.
Star Wars.
It's not that I mind him doing it. It's that I mind that we never get a concrete reason why. Admiral Kilian's a good character, but I feel like they could have developed it a little bit more. They could have developed him a little bit more before plopping in the whole go down with the ship thing. I mean, we know he's a man of honor. We know he's a good soldier, but we don't know why he is going down with the ship. Like, and also we get some subtle prejudice here. Did you notice? I don't expect you to understand it, Jedi.
I thought that was interesting
Emphasis on the word Jedi.
That was strange to me because obviously no, the Jedi are so committed. They've got no attachments. They will die for the cause. But I guess other people don't see that.
Well, actually, that clears that up to me why he says Jedi, because he has an attachment to the ship. So if the ship goes down, he goes down with it. But what's the one thing that Jedi don't have? Why can't you never send an email to a Jedi? Because attachments are forbidden.
They don't know. Yep, attachments are forbidden.
Anyway,
that's my favorite joke. That's gotta be my favorite joke.
So then they get into the pods, and Boba makes his pod malfunction, and the Slave One picks them up, which is the first time we ever see a Slave One in animation, and it looks good.
It looks so good, and I like also how the paint job is kind of halfway between how we find it in The Empire Strikes Back and Attack of the Clones. Like it's not quite how Django had it, where it's kind of the blue gray, but it's also not quite the green and gray with yellow accents that Boba Fett gives it later. Yeah. So I think it's a good symbol of where Boba Fett is in his life. Of he hasn't turned into the lonely loner, the murderer that he becomes, but he's also very much kind of trying to evolve from where he was when he had his father around.
When Aura Singh comes and Bosk comes, and they dock at the ship, notice, here's something interesting. Boba doesn't acknowledge Aura Singh at all. Aura, so good to see you. Aura, thanks for... No, none of that. What are you going to do with them? First thing he says, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah,
Which,
I mean...
for someone who's supposed to care about those people... He sure cares about those people a lot.
Yeah, he does. I mean, I think that just shows like the humanity. Yeah. Like he's still. Yeah. He's still a boy, and he's still like a pretty He still seems like despite his bloodlust, he seems kind of like a pretty empathetic, level-headed person at that, who's kind of gone off the rails because of the people that he's surrounded himself with. He's 10 years old.
He still has a lot of innocence in him. That's just the reality.
He's 10 in this?
What?
I thought he's 10?
11, 12?
Gosh. Oh my gosh, I thought he was like 15.
No, no, no,
I
no,
mean,
no, no.
not that that would make it any, not that that would make it any better, but like,
But no.
oh my
He's like 10,
gosh,
11,
good lord.
or something like that. Yeah, no. I like to think he's around the same age as. No, wait, that doesn't make sense. Never mind. I was about to say he's about the same age as Anakin, but that's not true. Um,
He would be old. He'd have to be older than that.
no. What I mean is, I like to think that Boba Fett in Clones is the same age as Anakin in Menace.
Yeah,
So that means that
that would be
Boba's
a very
10 years
interesting
younger
parallel.
than Anakin, which also makes sense. Anyway, here we go. Here's one of my favorite quotes of this episode, and I'm going to explain it to you in an extended metaphor. Are you ready for this?
Yes,
That was
bring
never
it.
part of the plan. I just wanted to kill the Jedi that murdered my father. And I wrote, so this is like one of the main themes of the arc. Boba does not want this bigger scheme with the bounty hunters and the sabotage and the bombing and the leverage and the hostages and the alliance. He wants revenge. Actually, I love that this is one of the few connections we do get with the original trilogy in this way, where Boba wants his cash and to be out of the way. He doesn't care about all the grand schemes and all that stuff. He just wants his cash and then he's gone. And here's my metaphor. He is trying to The Mandalorian out of the story, trying to cut out connections to the larger galaxy. But Star Wars has a way of Star Warsing its characters. Everything has a connection at some point. Actually, it's an interesting metaphor for the way that Star Wars canon works out right now. That's how it always happens. They're like, this is a new era, this is a new story, this is a new project. Oh, hey,
No, it's
by
not.
the way, did we mention the 6 cameos from characters you already know we threw in there?
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which I
it's
love.
hilarious.
Yeah. And then the episode finishes up. Here's one of my favorite lines from the episode again. I can't believe it was someone just like us. If he is like us, he'll realize he's wrong. Good final line.
That's a very, very interesting. I think that as much as I like this episode, if I'm putting my critic hat on and placing my fan hat for a minute, I feel like it felt a little bit undercooked or maybe underdeveloped at the end. I think that the moment when he chose to leave behind his fellow cadets and go with Aura Singh was, I feel like it was supposed to be a big moment for Boba Fett, and in some ways it was, but I don't think, unless you were really looking for it, you didn't see that because you didn't really see like the supposed bond that the cadets have, and perhaps the bond that Boba Fett may have gotten to form with the cadets if this had taken place maybe in the second episode of the arc instead of the first.
Yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed this episode quite a bit.
My opinion is that this episode, I might as well just reveal my rankings of this already. This episode is the weakest episode of this arc.
Really?
Which is not a bad thing. It's a really good episode. The episodes just get better. That's just how it happens.
That's a great thing to be able to say.
Yeah, the episodes just get better. I do agree that some of the moments felt a little bit like, yeah, but we know who Boba. That's my biggest problem with this episode, really. We see it in the other 2 episodes, but not as much as this one. We know who Boba Fett's gonna be, and believing that there's any hope for Fett, you know what I mean? Believing that there's any hope, that's not gonna happen. You know that Boba Fett's gonna become the steeled killer, so any evidence otherwise, doesn't make me feel anything because I know where he's going. But that's just me. You mind if I do both the summaries for Trackdown and R2 Come Home?
I think you love these episodes, so I think you're gonna do a better job than I could.
Okay.
So
R2 Come Home. Here we go. In R2 Come Home, Anakin and Mace Windu are scavenging the wreckage of the crashed Endurance when they get trapped under rubble by a huge explosion triggered by Anakin touching the helmet of the former bounty hunter, guess who? Jango Fett. the formerly alive, I guess you could say. Uh, and they get trapped under rubble and they cannot get out. It's up to R2D2 to let's list R2's accomplishments. Fight off Gundarks because they're on the planet of Vancor. Evade the Slave One piloted by Aura Singh, Bosk, and Boba Fett. Get back to Coruscant. Alert the Council of Anakin and Mace Windu. Get the Council to bring of Anakin and Mace Windu situation. Get reinforcements from the Jedi to come to Vancor, rescue them, and do that all while not getting destroyed.
Yeah.
So he of course does that, and Anakin and Mace Windu heal from their injuries just fine. So our fortune cookie is adversity is a friendship's truest test. What do you think about this one?
This is an interesting one. I think that they're not really friends, as this episode kind of proves to me, whether it intends to or not. They kind of go their separate ways and kind of just say "huh" to each other. After everything is said and done here, Mace Windu and Anakin.
Oh,
that being said,
interpreted this with Mace Windu and Anakin.
I did. Who did you interpret?
I had two ones. First one I thought was the obvious one, which apparently wasn't that obvious. Anakin and R2. R2 stuck out his neck constantly to rescue Anakin from the rubble. And number two, which I think is a less obvious one, but the more interesting one, Aura Singh, Bosk, Castus, and Boba.
That's so interesting you should say that, because again, I would say that to me, I think this episode proved even more that Aura Singh is no friend of Boba Fett's. Boba Fett is scared of I think he is more scared of her and resentful of her than anything else.
No, I agree.
But I just think he depends on her and he doesn't have another choice because he's a kid, for God's sake.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you considered this, but I'm thinking you may be misinterpreting the fortune cookie a little bit. Allow me to offer my opinion, if I may.
Okay.
It doesn't say that if you endure adversity, the friendship is 100% guaranteed to succeed. It says that it's its truest test, which means that either the friendship's going to grow infinitely stronger or it is going to fall apart. So, I feel like Boba and Aura and Castus and Bosk, by that same token too, this episode proved how shaky their alliance was.
That is a good point. That is a very good point. I didn't think of that.
They're not friends. They're just like people working together for a common goal.
Yeah, that is true. However, if they're not friends,
which they aren't,
how can their friendship be tested if they don't have a friendship? You know what I mean? So it feels a little bit, I get where you're coming from, but I think it feels a little bit paradoxical. But maybe we just need to broaden, maybe in this case, friendship can just mean also like a material alliance or a crossing of paths of convenience and mutual. That's
completely possible. Yeah.
I'm more than okay with that.
I thought you're gonna have a field day with this episode, because what are the first discussions between Anakin and Mace Windu? They're about droid sentience.
I know.
I held you back from it. I held you back from it on the Deserter, but I'm like, nope, I can't even.
I think this is hard for me because, from my point of view, I'm not really I'm just a battle droid society advocate. I don't care about these other droids. I'm in it for the Rogers and the Rogers. You know what I mean? So,
but I'm sure you got a lot to say.
They can do what I want. Yeah, I do have a lot to say about this stuff. I do have a lot to say with it. Strap in. I think that this episode, if we look at the conflict over R2, this to me is kind of the pinnacle of the great mystery of why people blame Anakin's dislike of Mace Windu so completely and so unequivocally solely on Mace Windu. Anakin pretty much ignores the rules throughout, even though he knows R2 is a massive security threat. We already have the whole Goldie saga after R2 gets lost.
Yeah. But
it's not his fault that Goldie happened. But yeah, I just think that he gets mad when Mace Windu is annoyed that R2-D2 still is not wiped and is still allowed to form a close attachment to Anakin also. And you've already seen all kinds of trouble the Jedi are put in because of Anakin's attachment to R2.
Yeah.
But yeah. Besides that, I don't have much to let's just say I think the opening scene on the cruiser, or I guess not the opening scene, but the first scene when we get on the cruiser, the dawning realization that the clones were executed, that to me is absolutely phenomenal.
I absolutely agree. Everything that happens on that Star Destroyer is beautiful. I think. First of all, I wrote down, this looks like a Jedi Fallen Order map, and I'm like, oh wait, it's because you actually go on a crashed Venator in Fallen Order on Zepho. Which yeah. I also want to ask you something that I've been noticing all this time in the Clone Wars and about droids, and you are our technology expert here on In a Galaxy, so I'm hoping you can clear things up for me.
Yeah.
How high do R numbers go? It seems like anytime they want to make a new Jedi droid, they just keep going up a number.
I don't understand. These droids must be super exclusive because they do not have many. They do not have many numbers, you know. And I think there's two different Legends and canon answers. I think in Legends, the R2 is a series, the R3, the R4. You know, they're all different models, and I think in canon it's all just the R series. So that does give a little more wiggle room. But still, you know, this is something that has consistently perplexed me from the moment I first started picking up the Star Wars reference books and started looking at the different droids. You know, even little 7-year-old me was like, this doesn't make sense. How can there be so many people, whole galaxy worth of people and planets, and the droids, you know, have these very short names? And you know, I can only assume that there must be some other naming system or identification system beyond what we know, because you know, R2D2 R8, that's not like, I mean, you could do the math and find out what the maximum number of combinations could be. I'm not sure I could do that for you.
R4P17.
Yeah, I mean, you have, so you get a little bit of variety, but you know, are we really gonna want to have like
is there an
are we really gonna want an R8 B3000? Like, is that really where we want to go?
Are we getting an R327 at some point?
Yeah.
Or like an R1138 or whatever. I don't like. That's always bothered me. But like because we got R5 in New Hope, we got R4s in the prequels. In this, we've got R6, R7, and R8. I'm like, what are the rules?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite annoying.
No, definitely.
Yeah. So we get that trap. By the way, I realized that these 3 episodes have a lot of traps. Admiral Akbar would have gone crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that this episode, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I'm not quite sure what to say about it, actually.
But we get to see Jango Fett's helmet in animation, which is so cool. I really appreciate that. I really love seeing it. I also love the thematic idea of Boba just before he's supposedly about to kill Mace Windu. I mean, of course it doesn't kill Mace Windu, but he wants it to. But just before he kills Mace Windu, Boba wants to remind him for one last time what he did.
Yeah, it's a great, absolutely a fantastic moment. I agree. And also just the fact that he would be willing to use his father's helmet to just to kill Mace Windu. Not only that, I think, because he didn't have to use his father's helmet. He could have used anything, but he wanted to send a message also. Like, he knew that Mace Windu was gonna see that and read the last second before he died. I guess after the explosion gone off, I guess he would have thought, you know, oh, this was for Jango, you know?
Yeah. I have another weird extended metaphor coming up. Do you have anything before I get to my weird extended metaphor?
No, go for it.
This extended metaphor comes to you from one of my favorite non-Star Wars movies of all time. The excellent 1939 movie, The Wizard of Oz. Jacob, this entire arc is a Wizard of Oz parallel. Boba is
How so?
Dorothy. He wants to find a way back home. He wants to find a home. Castus is the cowardly lion because, he has no courage. Aura is the Tin Man because she has no heart. Bosk is not the Scarecrow. Who might the Scarecrow be? It's Hondo because he wants to find a smart way to stay out of it all in Lethal Trackdown. This is the Wizard of Oz in Star Wars.
Oh my gosh! Wow, brilliant! This is what we live for on this podcast.
This is what we do. Look. If we're talking about expert fan analysis, Babu Frick is Snoke. John Favreau is the true leader of Mandalore. The Boba Fett arc is the Wizard of Oz. I'm like, what other podcasts do you go to that have such deep content analyses as these?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know.
By the way, one more.
Oh, go ahead.
R2-D2 is the Wicked Witch of the West because he's constantly messing everything up for the people who are trying to find all the things.
It goes deeper. It goes deeper, folks. It goes as deep as you want it to go.
No, you can make anything work if you really try hard enough. Go ahead. Anything about like the sequence from when R2 escapes to when he leaves the planet?
I didn't have a lot to say about this. I thought it was pretty well done. It didn't do a lot for me in terms of the overall philosophical slant of the arc. It was pretty interesting how we see Jango being really precise in the training with his shots, and then once he has the chance to take out Mace Windu, I mean, obviously that's a harder target to hit, but all of that just goes out of the window for whatever reason. He just goes absolutely ham. He does not hold back. He is just full autoing at R8 or at R2.
Yeah.
So it's definitely surprising to see, and I think that just shows how clouded by emotion this part of his journey is, and how desperate he is kind of to get revenge, and how that is making him make bad decisions, like teaming up with Aura Singh. I think that is an objectively bad decision.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really work out for Boba, does it?
Yeah.
No.
You really feel bad for him in this, though.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta feel for him.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
By the way,
for him in here.
I know this is an issue you've had in the past. Through this entire conversation that Mace Windu and Anakin have trapped under the rubble about Jango Fett, why do neither of them question that they're leading an entire army based on this guy who tried to kill Mace Windu and now whose son is trying to? How did they not like? What?
I know, you go back there, and this is one thing that I kind of gotta, I like my boy, Mace Windu is my boy, but I gotta rag on him here for a minute, Oh,
I always rag on
I know, that's why I feel bad about doing it, because I feel like everyone's constantly kicking on Mace Windu, and sometimes I gotta put a stop to it, but today I'm gonna join right in. He gets this giant army delivered to him on Geonosis, clone 200,000 identical clones of a man he just killed, a man who was standing next to Count Dooku in Count Dooku's private box,
who 360 no scopes a Jedi.
And he just thinks, who goes ham, and he just doesn't. He has nothing to say. He has no questions. He's just like, okay, cool, yeah, let's go blow up those spaceships.
Yep.
Let's
I think I saw a meme like that, actually.
Yeah, there was a meme, I think. That's what reminded me of it, so it probably says something.
I was going to mention it if you
similar.
Didn't, so I'm glad you did. Here's something, one of my final thoughts from this episode. I can see why your master trusts you. Here's a little note I wrote. In a world where droids are so often the imprints of their owners, that says a lot. Droids aren't tools so much as they are pets. There's that Dave Filoni quote about Rebels. If R2's the family dog, Chopper's the cat.
Yeah.
R2 is Anakin /Luke/Rey's dog. He's a good boy, so he's very
Yeah.
dutiful, but is a reflection of them often, all three of them. He's a clear sense of duty, and he wants to be helpful, so that's what he does. The Mandalorian does a lot about the whole droid thing with IG-11 about the human imprints. It's the battle droids are the imprints
Yeah.
of the Nemoidians. The tactical droids are the imprints of the Separatists. R2 is the imprint of Anakin or Padme or Luke or Rey or the Nabooians. Any way you want to look at it, I'd say he's the imprint of all five of them. So yeah.
I agree, but if we're going on pets, I gotta disagree with you right there. I don't think Chopper's the cat. I think Chopper's just he's an evil gerbil. He's an evil gerbil.
Don't disagree with me. Disagree with Filoni.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, Dave Filoni. Sorry.
Sorry, Dave. Lethal Trackdown. In Lethal Trackdown, Plo Koon and Ahsoka go into the underworld of Coruscant once they hear that Boba Fett, along with Aurra Sing, is holding Republic troops hostage. They track Boba and Aurra and Bossk and Castus to Florum. They engage them there. Plo and Ahsoka take Boba into custody and track down Aurra Sing and defeat her, leaving her for dead. She's not actually dead, but we think she is, and that's good enough. Yeah.
So that's basically where we
Yeah.
revenge. Oh yeah,
Fortune cookie is revenge is a confession of pain.
I think this is really true in this episode. We see how his desire, or Boba Fett's desire for vengeance, is just eating away at him, but how it was forged in the unimaginable pain of him having to live without his father, Jango Fett, who was kind of the one person who was always there for him, the one person who loved him, the one person who would actually like protect him and be empathetic with him. And if you look at who he's surrounded by now, it's clear that he's not getting any kind of actual love or support or nurturing from Aurra and Bossk.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that he's so down and just doesn't have any support network may be the reason why he's fixated on killing Mace Windu as revenge, because that makes the fact that Mace Windu took away Jango so much worse for him, and it makes it so much harder for him.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have anyone to say like it's gonna be okay, and not necessarily move on, because I don't want to just say, oh, he has to move on. Like that's not what it is. But I think
he has to find something else for himself.
He would have been able to find himself if he had a stable emotional environment and people who actually look after him. So I think that the story of Boba Fett, at least right now, is kind of a story of tragedy for a long time.
Have you ever heard the tragedy of Boba Fett, the bounty hunter? No, I'm not doing that again. I'm going to bring up an interesting anecdote. What was the original title of episode 6? Do you remember this trivia question, Jacob?
It was Revenge of the Jedi.
And why did Lucas change it? Why did Lucas change
Revenge, a Jedi seeks not.
Yeah. This is a little bit, what I thought about the Fortune Cookie is a little bit of deep dive into that. Revenge only furthers one side of the Force, and that's the dark side. Revenge is telling somebody telling somebody else that they've hurt them, and in a very dark side, quid pro quo way, wanting the pain level to be equal with them. This ironically just puts them in an endless cycle of pain, or should I say, ironically, puts them in an endless cycle of pain, and which just keeps going the dark side. Keeps growing the dark side. Vader can tempt Luke with revenge for Obi-Wan, because if Luke avenges Obi-Wan through the merciless killing of Vader, the dark side just grows stronger anyway. Palpatine can tempt Anakin with revenge for his mother, or Padme later on. Kylo can tempt Rey with revenge for Han or Leia or her parents. Maul can tempt Obi-Wan with revenge for Qui-Gon. Palpatine can tempt Ezra with revenge for Kanan or Ahsoka or his parents. What does it do every single time? It strengthens the dark side. It's an interesting. It is a purely dark side thing, which is not something we see a lot. Often these things are in shades of gray, but this is completely a dark side thing.
But yeah, I think this just shows how Boba himself maybe isn't that bad, but then Aura is just the one killing everyone in her path, which is also unfortunately Boba's path.
Yeah.
So it's kind of Boba's kind of straddling a bit of a fine line, you might say.
Yeah.
To talk about the beginning of the episode for a minute, also, it's crazy how Anakin wants to go after Boba Fett so badly, and he's like, "Oh, we gotta track your killer down. We gotta, or your would-be." Wait, he's alive. No, we gotta track down your would-be assailant. And Mace Windu just like, no, there's a war going on. It's fine. Like, I'm gonna handle myself. I gotta handle my business, and I gotta say, in this moment, like him or hate him, Mace Windu, he is a model Jedi right now.
I disagree.
Mace Windu haters, STFU.
I agree. I disagree.
You disagree? Okay.
I actually agree with Anakin in this situation, because Anakin is not proposing revenge. Anakin is proposing something that looks like revenge, but it's not revenge. Anakin is not saying, track this guy down because he tried to kill you and you want revenge on him for trying to kill you. Anakin is saying, track this guy down because he tried to kill you and is thus a security risk. It is thus a threat to the Republic at large. That's not revenge.
I see your point, but I still have to admire Mace Windu's
I think Mace Windu
focus
is taking
in the war.
The morally,
and I think that, if you look at how calm Mace Windu is, and you compare that to Anakin, who's he's getting pretty emotional about this.
Yeah.
I think I would prefer the Mace Windu approach for myself, at least.
I think Mace Windu is doing the idealistic thing, but I think Anakin is doing the realistic thing. I think Anakin's doing the pragmatic thing.
Oh, really? I would contend that it's the exact opposite, to be honest, because Anakin's the one saying, we gotta go after him, we gotta bring him to justice, and then Mace Windu is the one saying, the immediate danger is past. And, like, yes, he's a security risk, but ultimately, in case, as he says, in case you hadn't noticed, there's a war on.
Yeah, I get it.
We don't get to pick and choose who we try to bring to justice.
Yeah.
Maybe in this moment, by choosing this, we're maybe choosing not to bring Grievous or Dooku or Ventress to justice.
Yeah, I get that. Here's another moment I love. When they're showing the hostages and executing one of the hostages. Have I ever referenced to you Anakin says yes, Luke says no from the Revenge of the Sith documentary?
Anakin says yes, Luke says no. I don't think you have.
It's a parallel that Lucas points out about Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith. When both forced to make a choice of killing a Sith Lord they've been trying to bring to justice for some time. Anakin with Dooku in Revenge of the Sith, Luke with Vader in Return of the Jedi. They both have to make a decision. They're both tempted by the same person, the Emperor. Good, Anakin, good, good. This made you powerful. Anakin says yes and does it and does it. Luke says no, and that's the main difference between them. Boba here also says no. Literally, or when Fett's pointing his blaster at pawns, we find out, Aura literally says to him, "Do it," and Boba can't do it. Boba says no.
Yeah.
He really hesitates, but that hesitation's all Aura needs to, next time I say it, you do it,
Yeah, and I think also, maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but this could almost be mirrored by Ezra and Maul in the Twilight of the Apprentice episodes of Rebels. When we see Maul choking the seventh sister with ease, and then saying to Ezra, strike her down,
but Ezra can't do it.
Finish her, and then Ezra can't do it. Maul then executes her and says, the next time you hesitate like that, it may cost you your life or the lives of your friends. So it's kind of a similar thing of saying like, you better not, like, if you're in with me, you better not do that again.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting moment to compare it to.
I think that's definitely an interesting comparison right there. Yeah. But let's talk about the Ahsoka and the Plo Koon B plot, which I thought feels like basically just they wanted to do Lightsaber Lost again, because they're both in the underworld, they're both looking for something, and they both have lessons of Ahsoka having to adopt patience.
Yeah, and I think there are some parallels, but also I think this is a pretty different scenario.
Yeah.
And as much as it is maybe a bit of a continuation of some of the same themes of Ahsoka, as you said, learning patience, learning to kind of
Slow down.
slow her roll, figure things out, don't rush in, sense. I think there was a lot there, but also I really like this moment, and I would have loved to see more of Plo Koon, especially in the show. I think he's really wise. He's quite likable, and I think his rapport with Ahsoka is great. And I would love to have seen more of that on the show. And I'm pretty sad that we didn't get more of that.
I know you like this guy. You want to talk about Hondo in this episode?
Ooh, Hondo.
Hondo is peak Hondo in this episode.
Hondo is peak Hondo in this episode. I think that they did a really good job of he's usually in the thick of it, trying to find a way to bring a profit and also kind of bring in some fun, but also bring in a little chaos. He's the wild card. But I think in this episode, it's really cool to see the more serious side of Hondo. The way he's like, he's still like, oh, we gotta discuss business, we gotta have our drinks. He's putting on the bravado, but like, you can tell that he definitely knows what he's doing, and you can tell that this is a moment when he is taking things very seriously. And that's something that oftentimes we don't get to see from Hondo, because he's so cavalier, because like he has that crazy persona of, I've got a pet monkey and I do all sorts of crazy things. But in this moment, I really think it's interesting how he like says, oh, they mean business, this is dangerous, like, you guys got to work this out on your own.
Yeah. Two lines that stand out for me from Hondo in this episode that just make me giggle the entire time. Number one, when Plo and Ahsoka arrive, hello, welcome to Florum. I like laugh hysterically every single time. Also, after Aura Singh kills Castus, hey, someone scraped this guy off the floor. He sprung a leak.
Yeah, no.
The matter-of-fact way he says that is like, I never not find that funny.
Absolutely, that's Hondo for you. That's Hondo to a T.
Yeah.
But that's what I love also about this episode, is that they really create this sense of a huge. They really create this sense of anticipation, of foreboding, of danger, and the sense of like, this is a real high stakes standoff.
Yeah.
When Plo Koon's right there with Aura, when he says like, when he's walking with me, he says like, I can't get involved.
I will say,
and then the fact that he's usually so interested in getting involved in everything he can.
Yeah.
That just creates such a tonal shift in this episode, and I love it.
I do feel like when the Clone Wars is faced with a season finale, they never don't deliver. You know what I mean? They always deliver.
Yep.
This feels like a season finale. Why? Because it is. Hostage Crisis from season 1 we haven't gotten to yet. We'll get to next season. That's a season finale for you. Lethal Trackdown. Wookiee Hunt from season 3 is the one exception where I feel like they fell a little short. Revenge in season 4 where they bring back Maul. Even though I don't like that, it feels very big. The Lawless. Actually, the Lawless, no, it's the Wrong Jedi in season 5, sorry. The Lawless feels like one, but it isn't one. The Wrong Jedi in season 5, Sacrifice in season 6, and of course the ultimate season finale in season 7, the series finale, Victory and Death, which, I've talked about the helmet in the snow ad verbium, but Finally, there's one line I want to talk about. Why should I help anybody? I've got no one.
Oh, that moment for me was kind of hard. That was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Boba Fett in the Clone Wars, for me, in everything he does, is an afterthought. He's not the main character in anything. He's not the main character in the prequels or the originals. He's not even close. Not in the Clone Wars. In Universe 2, nobody gives two shits about Boba Fett. They don't. They got a war going on. They're not worried about some 10-year-old trying to mess things up in the galaxy for them. They got bigger fish to fry. But afterthoughts have lives and struggles too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I think that's one thing that Star Wars.
yeah.
I think in recent years, with the
From a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view, I think it's nice how that kind of aspect of Star Wars, if it's not just about the big heroes and the big villains, has kind of gotten a little more attention. I think that it is definitely something that's always been there, but it's nice to see a little more focus on it. Like let everyone have their day in the sun,
In a lot of the
even if they're not the most important character in the world.
In a lot of the accompanying geek universes, which in the world of the Schmoed, and I'll probably toss this term around, inner geekdom, Harry Potter, Marvel, DC. There's often a lot of collateral damage, but we never think about collateral damage because they're not important to the story. But they're people; they have lives, they have struggles, But this is a scenario where the collateral damage comes back to bite them, which is fascinating.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So yeah, that's all my notes for these episodes. I'm sure you have a bunch of juicy ones that I missed.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered a lot of it. I don't really have a lot more, honestly. I think you brought up a lot of good points. So should we get into kind of the overall recap, or?
Yeah. Let's. So, how would you rank these 3 episodes?
Yeah, that's what I meant. We can cut that deliberation.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
How would I rank these episodes? That is a good question. I think it's hard to rank them separately, obviously, because even more than some other arcs, these ones feel very, very very intertwined.
Yeah.
But I think I would say I'd have to go with my favorite. So I think that my favorite was Lethal Trackdown, followed by Death Trap, and then R2 Come Home was probably my least favorite.
My list is the same as Jacob's, except for you flip R2 Come Home and Death Trap. Death Trap at the bottom, then R2 Come Home, then Lethal Trackdown. Lethal Trackdown is one of the best episodes in this season, in my opinion. It
really
feels like a season finale, when really the stakes aren't that big. If we're really talking to ourselves, it's 2 Jedi and 2 bounty hunters. That's the entire episode. But they make the stakes feel so real.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Let's get on to everyone's favorite part of Star Wars in the galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. What is it, Jacob?
1/4 portion.
I've been waiting too long.
It's not a very good impression.
I've waited too long.
What you've brought me today is worth 1/4 portion.
We got a half portion today, actually, because we skipped one because we were recording with Maggie and we didn't have the time. We got 1 6 degrees. We're halving both of them. 1 6 degrees and 1 opinion. Jacob, go ahead with yours. Your first one.
All right. So 6 degrees is going to be thematic for today's episode.
Interesting.
Eli, could you connect for me Aura Singh and 4LOM?
Oh. Boba Fett. Done.
Did Boba Fett ever meet 4LOM, though?
He's on the executor with him in
Oh,
Empire.
no, I forgot about that. Oh. Okay, well, oh well. All right,
Bosk,
what's yours? What you got
Bosk.
for me? Yeah, Boss too. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. All right, what you got for me?
Cardo. Cardo is one of the Knights of Ren.
Cardo is a Knight of Ren. Excuse me? Okay.
Cardo.
Okay.
And a clone you may know as CC1138. His nickname is Commander Baccarat.
Commander Baccarat. Now, you're going to have to give me a little more information here because my clone trivia is a little rusty. Who does Baccarat serve under?
He is in the Galactic Marines, headed by Jedi General Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Yep. Okay, so Baccarat, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Anakin Skywalker. Wait, he never meet. Okay, no, can't do that. Anakin. Wait, Baccarat. Wow, I'm fried today.
Let's see.
It's been a long day. I can do this.
I'm trying to figure this
Okay,
one out myself.
so we have Bakura. Then I think we go to Kiadi-Mundi, obviously, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Luke Skywalker, and then Kylo Ren, and then the Knight of Ren.
I think you could.
Cargo. What's his name?
Cardo.
Cardo. Yes. Cardo.
C-A-R-D-O.
I could probably cut something out.
C-A-R-D-O. Cardo.
Oh no! I thought of a better one. Wait.
Yeah, I thought of
no,
one using the Rise of Kylo Ren one with your path. If you use the Rise of Kylo Ren comic, then Luke and Cardo met each other.
Oh yeah, I haven't. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I haven't read that, so I wouldn't have known. But yeah, that's a good one.
So you can cut out a step there. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're getting on to Star Wars opinions. Go ahead, Jacob, with yours.
Okay. Star Wars opinion question for you. If you could bring in any actor to Star Wars to play a part in Star Wars, voice or live action, your choice, who would it be and who'd they play?
Who'd it be and who'd they play?
Or it could be a new character. It could be a new character too. It doesn't have to be an established character. So if you just want, you could just say like, I just want them in there.
I would say. Interesting question. I would say, screw it. We're going cross-franchise on this. I know Daniel Radcliffe is a big Star Wars fan. Let's bring him into Star Wars.
Oh, I like it. That is a good choice. I think he could.
I don't have a specific character
of roles,
but I think it would be fun to see him play a Sith Lord.
The question is, would he be a Force user or a Muggle?
That is a question right there. I want to see him be a Sith Lord. We have Luke Skywalker I would being like a Sith Lord. We can have Harry Potter being one too. Okay. What's your choice, by the way?
Ooh, I would probably have to go with Melissa Villaseñor, I think.
Interesting.
Saturday Night Live comedian. She's very funny. But she actually has like a lot of acting chops and quite a bit of range, and I really think that she could do something pretty awesome. And I'm a big fan of her. I think she has a lot of potential, and it would be really cool. So yeah.
Okay, Jacob. This one relates around a recent announcement. As you may have seen, they are releasing a bunch of old Legends Star Wars media onto Disney+. They are releasing Star Wars Clone Wars, which we previously covered on In a Galaxy. They're releasing the Ewok movies. They're releasing, I'm pretty sure, the Ewok show as well. And they're releasing the animated short from the holiday special all onto Disney Plus this April.
Man, what must George Lucas be thinking right now?
Probably he wants to smash Disney with a sledgehammer, just the same way he wants to slash the holiday special. I'm only half joking.
Yeah. I know.
Anyway,
I mean,
if there is let's take another piece of Legends Star Wars media, a video game, or like some other TV show or something from Legends, or I don't know, something. What do you want to see on Disney Plus? For me, for example, I want to see a video game movie of like a cutscene montage of The Force Unleashed, the first Force Unleashed game, or the first KOTOR game on Disney Plus.
That's a very good question. You know, I think it's hard to say because so much of what I love are books.
Yeah.
But what I would like to see is potentially either an audiobook or perhaps like a radio drama, a la the original late 70s, early 80s radio dramatizations of the original movies. You know, sound effects, fully voice acted, with some iconic Legends books. You know, what about like a fully voice acted audiobook of the Thrawn trilogy or the Darth Bane trilogy? How amazing would that be?
I think there are audiobooks, but I'm not sure if they're fully acted. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think like having like a voice acting thing in there too, though.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I want to bring back I would love for them to bring back the radio drama format, I think.
Okay.
That would be...
I think that's it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. thank you so much for listening to this episode. The next episode we're releasing is going to be a retrospective episode to end Season 5 of Star Wars in a Galaxy before we get into Season 3 of the Clone Wars and Season 6 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. In the meantime, make sure to follow us on Twitter at InAGalaxyPod, Instagram at Star Wars in a Galaxy. You can listen to us on Spotify, on Anchor, on Breaker, on Google Podcasts. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, we will be there. Leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts if you can. It really does help. You can email us at swinagalaxy@gmail.com. And I think until next time, may the Force be with you. Always.